Most women assume men become obsessed with beauty. They're wrong. A man can admire beauty, sure, but what actually creates real addiction in him runs much deeper than that. It's emotional, not visual. Today, I want to walk you through 3 powerful behaviors that go far beyond simply making a man interested in you. These are not tricks, games, or carefully rehearsed tactics designed to manufacture attraction. They are ways of showing up that create the kind of emotional experience people naturally remember. When practiced authentically, they can deepen connection, strengthen trust, and make your presence something he continues to think about long after you've gone. Because the strongest attraction is rarely built on appearances alone. It grows from the way someone feels in your presence. Long after the details of a conversation fade, the emotional atmosphere remains. People forget exact words, but they rarely forget how someone made them feel. They remember the person who made them feel seen instead of judged, understood instead of analyzed, appreciated instead of evaluated. What makes this fascinating is that most people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to become more attractive on the surface, while overlooking the qualities that quietly shape emotional attachment over time. They focus on saying the perfect thing, sending the perfect text, or creating the perfect impression. Yet lasting attraction is rarely born from perfection. It is built through emotional consistency, authenticity, curiosity, and the quiet confidence that comes from being comfortable in your own skin. Think about the people you've never quite forgotten. Chances are it wasn't because they constantly tried to impress you. It was because being around them felt different. Conversations flowed naturally. You felt accepted rather than performed for. There was room to be yourself. Those experiences leave an imprint that logic alone cannot explain. Psychologists often describe this as emotional association. Our minds naturally connect people with the feelings we consistently experience around them. If someone's presence repeatedly brings calm, warmth, inspiration, laughter, or genuine understanding, the brain begins to anticipate those emotions whenever that person comes to mind. Over time, the person and the feeling become deeply intertwined. That is why genuine connection cannot be forced. It grows quietly through repeated experiences that communicate safety, respect, and authenticity. It is not created by pretending to be someone you're not. In fact, the harder someone works to maintain a carefully constructed image, the more exhausting the relationship often becomes. Real intimacy begins where performance ends. The 3 behaviors we're about to explore all have one thing in common. They invite connection rather than demand it. They don't rely on manipulation, emotional games, or making someone chase you. Instead, they create an environment where attraction has room to develop naturally because both people feel respected, emotionally safe, and free to be themselves. Ironically, these behaviors often appear deceptively simple. They don't create dramatic movie moments. They create something far more valuable: emotional stability. And while excitement may capture someone's attention for a moment, emotional stability is often what keeps people invested over the long run. So, as we move through these 3 behaviors, don't think of them as techniques to make someone hooked. Think of them as qualities that help build healthy, mutually rewarding relationships. The goal is not to make someone lose themselves in you. The goal is to create the kind of connection where both people genuinely enjoy finding more of themselves through each other. Because the healthiest relationships are never built on obsession. They are built on trust, on curiosity, on emotional safety, and on the quiet realization that being together consistently feels better than being apart. Those are the kinds of connections that don't need manipulation to endure. They grow naturally, steadily, and deeply, until one day someone realizes they aren't simply attracted to you anymore. They've come to value the peace, authenticity, and genuine connection they experience whenever you're together, even if they can't quite explain why. Picture this. He could meet 100 gorgeous women, and the one he can't stop thinking about is the one who gives him something he simply can't find anywhere else. That's the whole secret right there. This has nothing to do with playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about waking up parts of his heart and mind that make him crave being around you. And once you do that, he starts chasing you, valuing you, and never wanting to let you go. Before I get into these 3 behaviors, stick around until the end, because the last one is the exact reason he ends up seeing you as unforgettable. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you did absolutely everything right? You looked beautiful, you were kind, funny, easy to talk to, and somehow he still pulled away, or worse, lost interest without ever explaining why? If that's happened to you, you're far from alone. And here's the truth behind it. What actually keeps a man emotionally locked in has very little to do with how you look, and almost everything to do with whether you're reaching the part of his mind that's quietly longing for real connection. Welcome, ladies. In this one, I'm sharing 3 natural but powerful behaviors that get a man emotionally invested in you in a way that feels effortless. None of this is a trick or a manipulation tactic. These are strong feminine qualities that speak directly to a man's deep need to feel seen, respected, and safe enough to actually love someone. We're going past the surface level tips here and into the real psychology of attraction, the kind of bond most people don't even realize they're building when someone becomes unable to stop thinking about them. By the time this is over, you won't just understand men better, you'll know exactly how to show up in a way that pulls the right man towards you and keeps him there. So if you're ready to stop chasing and start being chosen, let's get into it. The first behavior that quietly wins his heart over is this. When people ask what makes a man hooked on a woman, they usually assume it's about looks. And sure, chemistry matters, but that's only the initial spark. What actually ties a man emotionally to someone is how he feels about himself when he's around her. Sit with that for a second. Men are emotional beings too, even if they don't always show it outwardly. Underneath it all, they're constantly asking themselves, even without saying it out loud, do I feel noticed here? Do I feel respected? Do I feel like a real man when I'm with her? Not because of my paycheck or my job title, but because of who I actually am underneath all that. When a man finds a woman who stirs those feelings in him, he becomes emotionally attached. This isn't about controlling him or playing mind games. It's genuine connection. A lot of women pour their energy into trying to impress men. But the women men never forget operate completely differently. They don't perform for attention. They don't compete for it. They don't try to prove their worth. Instead, they create a space that feels like home, comforting yet exciting at the same time, a place where he feels both admired and quietly challenged to be better. Here's what surprises a lot of people. Emotional addiction was never built on drama or manipulative games. Those might create a quick burst of excitement, but it fades fast. Real, lasting connection gets built when a woman can hold both softness and standards at once. She doesn't chase. She doesn't give endlessly just to earn love. But when she's actually present, she's fully present, warm, curious, and secure in her own value. A man becomes emotionally addicted the moment he realizes he can be completely himself around you while still somehow feeling like the strongest version of himself. In a world that constantly tells men to hide their feelings or perform toughness, finding a woman who welcomes both his light and his shadow is genuinely rare. That's what pulls him in on a deep level. In a moment, I'll break down how to spark this reaction, starting with the first behavior that shifts everything. Stay with me, because this one changes how you see connection entirely. So what's the first behavior that really draws a man close? Feminine energy. But before going further, let's get one thing straight. Feminine energy has nothing to do with being passive, weak, or submissive. That's outdated thinking, and it's simply wrong. Feminine energy is strong, magnetic, and deeply attractive precisely because it connects to something men are longing for without even realizing it. In a world that constantly demands men perform, provide, and stay strong at all times, feminine energy offers something rare: peace, softness, and emotional life. When you're operating from your feminine, you're not chasing, you're allowing. You're not trying to prove your value, you're simply embodying it. You're fully present, open to feeling and expressing what you feel, and you let things unfold instead of trying to micromanage every detail. Here's the real secret. When a man feels this kind of energy around him, he doesn't just notice you, he feels safe. Not in a boring, flat way, but in a way that lets him lower his guard, drop the performance, and connect with the real version of you, not the version trying to win him over. He might not even be able to put it into words, but emotionally it's irresistible. Why does this work so well? Because feminine energy has become rare. So many people are stuck in constant hustle mode, always doing, proving, fixing, or overanalyzing. But when you show up in your being instead of only your doing, you immediately stand apart from everyone else. So what does that actually look like in real life? It's the way you lean fully into your own joy. The way you smile with your whole face, not just your mouth. The way you pause before responding instead of reacting on instinct. The way you make room in a conversation instead of filling every silence. The way you express how something makes you feel instead of immediately jumping into logic or problem-solving mode. When you're connected to your feminine energy, you speak from your heart, your body, your intuition, not just your head. And men feel that on a very deep level. You're not trying to control how they perceive you. You're not performing. You're simply being, and strangely enough, that's exactly what makes you unforgettable. Here's the effect this creates. When a man meets a woman who's fully in her feminine, he naturally shifts into his masculine. Not because she's forcing it, but because the balance itself invites it. She becomes the calm to his storm, the warmth to his edge, the mystery to his logic. That contrast, that dance between the two, is what builds long-term desire. Feminine energy was never about being less. It's about being fully yourself without apologizing for it. It's about trusting yourself, trusting life, and trusting the connection you're building. And when a man senses that kind of trust radiating from you, it reaches a part of him that very few people ever manage to touch. That's exactly why this is the first behavior that draws him in so deeply, not just on the surface, but on something closer to a soul level. Now let's talk about the actual science behind this, because feminine energy isn't just a vibe, it literally changes how a man's brain responds to you. When you show up calm, grounded, emotionally open, and fully present, it triggers specific chemical reactions in his brain that genuinely feel like addiction. But unlike lust or short-term obsession, this kind of addiction is rooted in emotional safety, bonding, and real attraction. Here's what's actually happening. When a man feels admired, accepted, and emotionally safe around a woman, his brain releases a combination of powerful chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. Dopamine is the reward chemical. It spikes when he's around someone who excites and inspires him, especially when that person brings a kind of feminine unpredictability, not chaos, but the pleasant surprise found in her depth, her emotions, her playfulness, her joy. That's what lights his brain up. All of it triggers dopamine, and he starts associating you with pleasure, excitement, and anticipation. Then comes oxytocin, the bonding chemical, and this one matters enormously. When a woman helps a man feel emotionally safe, when he feels accepted rather than judged, when he can show his vulnerable side without being made to feel weak for it, oxytocin gets released. That's what actually builds trust. It's what makes him want to stay close, open up, and share more of himself. It's what turns simple chemistry into a real connection. And then there's serotonin, the chemical tied to mood stability and emotional balance. When a man feels respected and genuinely understood, his serotonin levels stabilize. He feels calmer, more grounded, more like himself when he's around you. And once again, he starts linking that steady, good feeling directly to your presence. So what does all this actually mean? His brain begins wiring those positive emotions directly to you. That means every time he sees you, hears from you, or even just thinks about you, he gets a rush of those same feel-good chemicals. Without even realizing it, he starts craving you, not just your looks, but the energy you carry and how being around you makes him feel. This is exactly why some women become unforgettable. Not because they always say the perfect thing or look a certain way, but because they awaken this specific emotional chemistry that makes a man feel safe, alive, and truly connected. It was never about being flawless. It's about being present, being genuine, and staying rooted in your feminine energy, because that's what changes everything. Once you understand how to naturally create this response, you stop chasing love. Love starts chasing you. Now that you can see the science behind all of this, let's move to the next powerful behavior, one that quietly commands respect and instantly raises your value in his eyes. If feminine energy is what draws a man toward you, self-respect is what actually keeps him, and not in some routine going through the motions way. It keeps him hooked, engaged, and emotionally invested. There's something almost irresistible about a woman who respects herself enough that she refuses to settle for confusion, half-effort, or crumbs disguised as love. Here's what a lot of people get wrong about this. Self-respect doesn't need to be loud. It's not about attitude, ego, or announcing that you don't need a man. True self-respect is calm, steady, and completely non-negotiable. It's the quiet power of a woman who knows exactly what she's worth and refuses to lose herself just to keep someone's attention. And men can feel this energy. They sense your standards even when you've never said them out loud. You don't beg, you don't chase, you don't explain your own worth because it's already obvious without a single word. This shifts everything. Instead of you trying to win him over, he starts asking himself whether he's good enough for your world. That thought alone, that quiet awareness that he has to rise to meet your level, is what ignites real desire and real commitment. Here's the simple truth. Men respect women who respect themselves. Full stop. When you don't tolerate mixed signals, you're teaching him how to treat you. When you take your time instead of rushing things, you give him room to actually see your value. When you're willing to walk away from something that doesn't align with you, even when it hurts, you show him that you're the prize here, not just another option. Self-respect also shows up in your boundaries, not as hard walls but as filters. You're not shutting love out, but you are protecting your peace. You're not cold, but you also don't collapse yourself just to keep someone close. You can be soft and strong at the same time, open yet discerning, and that mix is deeply attractive to a genuinely high-value man. A masculine man doesn't want someone to fix. He wants a partner. He wants to know that if he chooses you, it's because you already chose yourself first. He wants to know your love comes from fullness, not emptiness. Yes, some men will waste time with women who don't respect themselves, but they build actual futures with women who embody it. And when you combine feminine warmth with steady self-worth, that's when you become magnetic, not just in dating, but in every part of your life. This is what builds real emotional connection. He doesn't just want your time or your body. He craves your attention, your presence, your yes. And when you give that honestly and sparingly, it becomes the most precious thing in his life. Now let's look at how this actually plays out day to day, because theory is great, but what does this look like in practice? Picture this, you're talking with him, and instead of rushing to fix his problems or flooding him with advice, you simply listen, really listen, with warmth and curiosity. You give him room to share without pressure or judgment. That kind of emotional presence signals safety. It pulls him in because he feels genuinely heard and understood. Or think about this. You're out together, and instead of trying to control every detail, you relax into the moment. You laugh easily, let your playful side come through, and just enjoy the flow of things. That joy releases dopamine in his brain, the reward chemical, so he starts associating being with you as something uplifting and exciting. Another example is how you handle your own boundaries. Maybe he texts late or tries to make last-minute plans. Instead of dropping everything for him, you calmly say you'd love to see him, but you need the evening for yourself. You're not being cold or dismissive, you're being clear and respectful. That kind of self-respect makes him see your value and pushes him to step up. That small challenge naturally deepens attraction. There's also something magnetic about being both vulnerable and strong at once. When you share a piece of your story, your hopes, or your struggles without shame, it builds real emotional closeness. He feels welcomed into your world, and that honesty builds trust. This kind of intimacy triggers oxytocin, the bonding chemical, which makes him want to stay close. And don't underestimate the power of a little mystery. You don't reveal everything all at once. You let curiosity stay alive. Maybe you hint at your passions or share a small piece of your past, but you leave space for him to ask questions and keep exploring. That quiet intrigue keeps the excitement going and makes him want to invest more time getting to know you. Finally, think about how you handle conflict. The way you carry yourself during a disagreement matters. Instead of reacting with anger or trying to win the argument, you stay centered, calm, and confident. That shows maturity and self-respect. It naturally earns his respect and strengthens the bond between you. These everyday moments are exactly where the beautiful behaviors we've been talking about come to life. They build emotional connection, create trust, and spark desire, not through games, but through genuine connection. Always remember, it's the combination of feminine energy, self-respect, and emotional safety in action that makes a man drawn to you in a way that feels deep, lasting, and meaningful. Now let's move into how emotional safety becomes the hidden key that keeps him loyal for the long haul. Let's get into the third and maybe the most important behavior that makes a man deeply attached to you, and that's creating emotional safety. It sounds simple, but emotional safety is actually the foundation of any strong, lasting relationship. Without it, attraction quietly fades and love struggles to take root. Emotional safety means building a space where he feels completely free to be his real self without fearing judgment, rejection, or criticism. It's about being the kind of woman who listens without immediately jumping to conclusions, who supports without trying to control, and who loves without attaching conditions to it. When a man feels emotionally safe with you, his guard finally comes down. He stops performing constant strength or perfection. He starts opening up in ways he never expected, sharing his worries, his dreams, even his more tender sides. When that happens, it creates a closeness unlike anything else, a connection so strong that he becomes emotionally attached in the healthiest possible way. So how do you actually build this kind of safety? It starts with your own energy. Are you patient when he shares something difficult? Do you respond with kindness and empathy, or do you get defensive or impatient? Do you make him feel heard and understood even when you don't fully agree with him? These small acts of genuine care build up over time into a strong foundation of trust. Creating emotional safety also requires consistency. He needs to feel that he can depend on you, not just when things are easy, but especially when life gets messy. When you stay calm, steady, and supportive through both the highs and the lows, he sees that your love isn't fragile or conditional. That kind of reliability is genuinely powerful and magnetic. Another important piece is respecting his emotional limits. Sometimes a man isn't ready to open up about everything right away, and that's completely fine. Pushing or pressuring him too much often backfires. Instead, give him the space and time to open up at his own pace. Let him know you're there and ready to listen whenever he feels ready. You also build emotional safety by managing your own emotions wisely. When conflict or tense moments arise, staying calm and balanced shows him you're secure within yourself. That steadiness makes him feel safe enough to open up in return. Remember, emotional safety doesn't mean avoiding all disagreements or struggles. That's not realistic. It's about creating a space where difficulties can be faced together without the fear that love will fall apart because of it. When a man feels emotionally safe, his brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which makes him crave closeness and intimacy. This isn't shallow attraction, it's a deep soul-level connection. And here's the special part. Women who provide this kind of emotional safety never have to chase. Men naturally want to stay close, protect, and commit to the woman who gives them this feeling. So as you build your feminine energy and stand firmly in your self-respect, remember that emotional safety is the glue holding everything together. Now let's talk about how these behaviors create the kind of loyalty that actually lasts, turning simple attraction into something built for the long run. When we think about making a man deeply attached, it's easy to focus only on attraction and chemistry. But the real secret, the thing that turns a spark into a steady flame, is loyalty. So what actually makes a man loyal for the long term? Loyalty was never about control or rules. It's a daily choice a man makes because he feels connected, respected, and emotionally fulfilled. When he chooses to stay loyal, it's because being with you adds something to his life that he genuinely can't find anywhere else. One of the biggest reasons men stay loyal is when they feel truly seen and valued on a deep level. This goes far beyond looks or surface compliments. It's about feeling understood, knowing you accept him flaws and all, and encouraging his growth instead of trying to reshape him into someone else. When a man feels this kind of acceptance, it builds a bond he genuinely doesn't want to lose. Trust is another major piece of this. Trust is the backbone of loyalty. When a man believes you truly care about him, speak to him honestly, and respect his limits, he feels safe enough to give his heart to the relationship fully. That trust lets him be himself without fearing judgment. Men also stay loyal when they know their effort is actually being noticed. If you show genuine gratitude for his time, his care, and the small acts of love he offers, it creates a positive cycle. He feels appreciated, and that appreciation inspires him to keep giving even more. Loyalty grows strongest in relationships where both people feel equally valued and supported. Emotional closeness plays a huge role too. Sharing your dreams, your fears, and your true self builds a connection that's genuinely hard to replace. That closeness makes the relationship feel like a team, encouraging real commitment because you're not just two separate people, you're partners facing life side by side. At the same time, holding on to your own individuality matters just as much. A man respects a woman who has her own passions, her own sense of self, and her own world outside the relationship. When you stay true to who you are, it builds respect and admiration, and that naturally deepens loyalty over time. Consistency matters here too. Being dependable, kind, and emotionally steady day after day is what quietly turns attraction into something that actually lasts.